On May 8, 1982, I was 12 years old when I was shot. At 4 feet, I was hit in the right chest with a 410 gauge shotgun. I was shot because the 17-year-old, who was renting a room from the woman whose daughter I was living with, demanded something from this 12-year-old that I was unwilling to provide. When I fought him, he became enraged, and the shooting ensued. When I was shot, I got up and walked out of the house and into the yard to sit in Miss Jean's car, the friend's mother, who was washing it at the time and looked at me with fear. Bobby Joe had just shot me, so I instructed her to contact my father. I sat in the back car, waiting for the ambulance. When the ambulance arrived, they took me to the next town, the nearest hospital, where the doctors informed my father that I would not survive the life flight because I had lost too much blood. If you knew my father, you would understand why they placed me on a life flight and rushed me to Herman Hospital in Houston. Everyone was astounded that I'd never lost consciousness or gone into shock. Everything is crystal clear in my mind. As the chopper touched down, I began to feel tired. They warned me not to sleep and began running with me down the hospital's lengthy corridor. To keep awake, I remember counting the lights on the ceiling as they flashed by. They claimed that even though they were rushing with the blood-soaked gurney, there was a trail of blood on the floor all the way down the corridor. They wheeled me into the operating room and started preparing me for operation. The nurse put a mask over my face and told me to count backwards from 10. The last number I recall was 8. I felt as if I were walking backwards with my eyes closed. Then I felt as if I had collided with a wall with my back. I opened my eyes to find a dazzling, but not blinding, white, hazy light covering everything. The cloud gradually dissipated, and I found myself laying on the operation table. It appeared that I was many stories up, looking down on myself. I observed them working on me, and then I noticed I heard something like singing or voices conversing, although not with my hearing, more like with my soul. But I couldn't make out any words. It was everywhere. I turned around at this point, and that's when I noticed the tunnel. It was like being inside a tornado. It seemed to be drawing light and mist into itself at warp speed. Throughout this event, I felt completely at ease. I began to go towards the tunnel in a way that seemed more like to floating than walking. I felt like I was on the other side of the tunnel as soon as I entered it. That fast. I observed the same dazzling light and mistiness as the rest of the room. I also realized I wasn't the only one. When I emerged from the tunnel, there were dozens of people standing in a horseshoe arrangement, with me in the center. I couldn't recognize anyone since I couldn't see any features. They were more like shadow shapes. Then I heard a voice say, "No." The interesting thing was that it was neither masculine or female, but it wielded great power. Then I questioned, with the stubbornness that I still have, "Why can't I come home?" "You cannot come home yet," I was told. I kept trying to move forward, but it kept telling me, "No, not yet. It's not your time." I suddenly felt impelled to return my gaze to the tunnel. That's when I was taken back through the portal and out the other side. When I looked down, I noticed them bringing the paddle machine over to my body. I noticed that the doctor grabbed the paddles and speak to the person standing next to them. They turned several knobs, and the doctor placed them on my chest, shocking me once. My body jumped, but I felt nothing. The doctor then spoke something to them again. They turned the knobs again, and he whacked me for the second time. Nothing. The doctor then put the paddles together for a time, as if praying, and then he said something to the person again. The person shook their head in disapproval, but went forward at the doctor's insistence and moved the knobs again. I awoke to the intensive care unit after he punched me 3 times. My parents were informed by the doctor that I had died. I was sheet-faced, so he took a gamble and struck me with the paddles a 3rd time. He claimed to not being a particularly religious man, but he felt compelled not to quit. So he didn't. I was supposed to be in the hospital for at least 2 months, but I was released after only 10 days. On TV and in the newspapers, I was dubbed a wonder child. The experience is one I would not swap for anything in the world. But a lot of things have happened to me since then. Previously, I could see, smell, and sense spirits. I was raised in a haunted house. I appear to have various psychic abilities since having the NDE. I still have all my powers with spirits, only stronger today, and my dreams come true frequently. In addition, I have very strong gut feelings that I can distinguish as good or unpleasant. I also seem to be able to sense other people's spirits. I believe the Bible refers to this as the deciphering of spirits gift. I was made to feel crazy when I tried to talk to my family about how I was feeling at the time and about my NDE, so I suppressed everything for many years. I finally found friends and family that are encouraging me to use my talents again. Now, for the dream portion of the NDE. The reason I say dream segment is because it appears to have occurred between the NDE and my awakening in the intensive care unit. The dream started with me strolling down my street, where I was living at the time, at night. Two things struck me. The first was that I was barefoot, as I had always been as a child, and the second was that I was the only living thing in the area. This means there were no birds, insects, animals, people, or even wind. There were cars parked in the street, running as if somebody had just pulled over and gotten out, and residences were lit up as if people were present, but no one was. I felt like I was the only living thing on the planet. I stepped up to the porch and entered my house to check for my parents, brother and sister, but there was no one there, despite the fact that the lights and TV were turned on. When I discovered that no one was at home, I became concerned and left the house to go next door to my Meemaw's house to see if they were there. Something was biting and scratching at my feet as I strolled across my front yard. This sensation was so powerful that I could feel blood trickling down my feet. I dashed from my yard to my mother's next door, only to find no one there either. I was terrified and perplexed by this point. I dashed back out onto the street. I gazed down the street to a four-way stop with a street lamp. I noticed a man standing at the back of the lamp's circle of light. It was enormous, very tall. I say it because I'm not sure if it was male or female. All I know is that it was incredibly tall. Because I dream in color, I saw that it was dressed in long beige or off-white robes and had shoulder-length dark hair. Thank God I'm not alone, I recalled thinking. I started running towards the figure, but as I got closer to the center of the circle of light, it raised one hand and stopped me. "You're not alone, and you've never been and will never be," it said. I told it I wanted to leave and that I didn't want to be here. It stated to me once more, "Do not be concerned. You are not alone. The Father says you still have a lot of work to do and can't go home yet." It said it again as I was objecting. "Not yet," he said as he faded away. It appeared to have been absorbed by the street lamp. I awoke in the intensive care unit when it went away.